Hi, welcome back to Flying Solo. We are on part 7. Last time we left with lunch, they were telling everybody so that they would all be in the secret together. And then Bastion took off to get his friend John the clerk. So now we're at lunch recess. Rachel stood on the playground watching the other kids. She heard a plane in the distance. The air smelled like rain. She thought of her father. He was a tall man, all elbows and knees with dark, bushy eyebrows. He left home when Rachel was in 4th grade. He and Mom had been arguing, and their fights seemed to grow more ferocious with each new day. Finally, Rachel couldn't take it anymore. One day she burst into their bedroom and started shouting at them. "Stop it! Stop arguing! You should hear yourselves! It's pathetic that 2 grown-ups should act the way you do. It's disgusting." Dad and Mom looked at her. They looked at each other. "She's right," Dad said to Mom. The next day he moved out. He moved west. A few months later he bought a small cattle farm in New Mexico. He'd been living there ever since. She only saw him twice a year now, and there were many days when she missed him terribly. His silly stories, goofy songs, magic tricks that were so amateurish, even a baby could figure them out. The rain smell reminded her of one summer day he took her to a playground. It started pouring rain, but they didn't leave. Inside, they stayed on the swings, singing at the top of their lungs while their clothes got soaked. "Why flying?" Mr. Snickerberger had asked her. "Why is flying so important to you?" Remember, he's the school counselor, she had to see. "If I could fly, I could see my father whenever I wanted," she thought. But she never said this, not even to Mom. She kept replaying the sequence of events. Her parents argued. She scolded them, then Dad left. 1, 2, 3. Even now, she had the nagging thought that in some way her scolding had been the catalyst for his moving out. Those fights had been horrible, but she wished she was still living at home. He was still living at home, arguments or not. She wished she had kept her mouth shut. Back then, it had never occurred to her that she had the right to remain silent. 12:50 p.m. Blood. After recess, Class 6, 238 filed back to the room. Rachel walked near the front of the line right behind Karen and Jasmine. "Bastion left," Jasmine said. "He just went home." "I know," Karen said, shrugging. "His last day of school," Jasmine said. "It's weird to think that we'll never see him again." Like Tommy Feathers, Rachel thought. It was April 28th, the 6-month anniversary of Tommy's death. Was she the only one who remembered? "Bastion's gone," Tim announced when he walked into the class. We know," Jessica sighed. But then Jordan came in with Sky, who was limping. "He's bleeding," Jordan said. Kids ran over to see. Sure enough, there was a large scrape the size of a $50 on Sky's knee. A bright rivet of blood had snaked halfway down his shin. He moved stiffly to his desk and sat down, wincing. "It's all right," he said. "Does it hurt?" Karen asked. Sky nodded and bit his lower lip. "Sorry about that pass," Jordan said. I guess I shouldn't have thrown it so low." "It's not your fault," Sky grimaced. "That's pretty ugly," Karen said. "You better go down to the nurse." "I'm okay, really," Sky said. "He can't go to the nurse," Tim said. "Why not?" Jasmine demanded. "Because he needs a pass," Tim told her. "Who's going to sign it? Mr. Fobb, our invisible sub, huh? Are you going to sign it?" Karen said. "You should just go to her office," Jasmine told Sky. "What's the nurse going to say? You can't come in, go bleed somewhere else." "That's what she told me last week," Corey said. "It's a new rule. You can't go to the nurse without a signed pass." You better go, Jessica told Sky. I'll go with you. Oh, Christopher said, raising his eyebrows and starting to sing. Sky and Jessica sitting in a tree. You Neanderthal, Rhonda said. Opinion, Christopher shouted. Shut up, Jessica pleaded in a whisper. Rachel nudged Missy. When Missy gave her a questioning look, Rachel nodded and nudged her again. Well, it doesn't look that deep, Missy said. I don't think you need stitches or anything. I can probably take care of it. You? Tim asked skeptically. Sure, Missy said. My father's a doctor. I know something about medicine. My father's a heart surgeon, but you don't see me going around cutting up people's hearts, Christopher retorted. He scratched his head, though actually, that might be kind of fun. This isn't heart surgery, Missy said. Does Mr. Fobb have any Band-Aids or anything? She walked to Mr. Fabiano's desk, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out a first aid kit. Great, this has everything we need. Can you really do this? Sky asked her. Sure, Missy said softly. First we need to wash out the wound. Can you get over to the sink? Sky hobbled over. The entire class clustered around him. Rachel stood in back, watching. Give him some room to breathe, Robert said. See if you can sort of sit up there, Missy said, so your knee is right under the faucet. Sky scooted up onto the counter and pulled his leg around. My mother used to give my sister her bath in the sink, Corey said. Same with my little brother, Tim said, except one time he don't say it, Rhonda begged. I just ate. This is going to hurt a little, Missy said, turning on the water. You guys, see if you can distract him. Try this, Jordan suggested. Say, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. No, Sky said. Ow! Just a sec, Missy told him. Think nice thoughts, Jasmine suggested. Yeah, think about surfing, Jordan said. Surfing can be pretty dangerous, Sky told them. A friend of mine got hurt bad his first day surfing on a brand new board. Really? He was riding this huge swell and he wiped out and his board came shooting up and caught him right here. Sebastian pointed at his solar plexus. Hey, Missy said, you guys are supposed to be distracting him. Ouch, Sky said. Sorry, Missy told him. That stuff's supposed to kill any infectious germs. What happened to your friend? Tim asked. Broke 6 ribs, Sky said. He couldn't even move in the water. Luckily, he was able to hold onto his board and float there till somebody swam out to help him. There, Missy said. Good as new. Well, almost. They all looked at the bandage. Missy had done a nice, neat job. Sky got off the counter and stood testing his knee. Feels pretty good, Sky said. He looked at Missy. Thanks a lot. When you get home, take the bandage off, Missy said. The air will make it heal faster. Not bad, Christopher admitted. You gonna be a nurse when you grow up? I want to be a doctor, Missy said shyly. Haven't you heard? Jessica asked him. Women can be doctors too. Fact, Rhonda told Christopher. Our hero, Jasmine said, raising Missy's hand in the air. It's no big deal, Missy said, though she did look pleased. See what I mean? Tim demanded. He whirled around so Corey and Christopher could slap him 5. Kids rule. Who needs the teacher? Who needs the nurse, huh? Who needs any grown-ups at all? Now it is 1:10 p.m. It's time for enrichment. Rachel stared out the window, looking past the field to the patch of woods beyond. She had heard that deer lived in those woods, and she liked the idea because deer were her favorite animals. A deer knew how to make itself invisible by using camouflage and silence. Deer made no bark, no whinny, no growl, no sound. They were mute. Or were they? Rachel wondered if silence might be something that deer chose. Maybe they had everybody fooled. Maybe they had invented their own secret language to communicate when nobody was around. A few large raindrops splattered against the windows. For a minute, she sat against the rain. She guessed that it would be hard to fly a plane in the rain, especially a small plane. Did planes have windshield wipers like cars? She should know that, but didn't. And landing in a rainstorm would be a lot trickier. The rain would cut down visibility. Rachel looked past Sean O'Day's face to the window where droplets were bouncing off the glass. The rain was starting to fall harder now. She thought of the silent deer getting wet in that patch of woods. Corey jumped up to close the windows. "Hey, we've got to do enrichment," Jessica announced. "Thank you, 5 points below genius," Tim said. "Shut up, you troglodyte," Rhonda shot back. "What's that?" Tim asked. "Look it up," Rhonda told him smugly. "Look it up," he mimicked. Enrichment was the program for gifted students. Early in the school year, Rachel had gone to enrichment too, but when she stopped speaking, Mr. Doblin dropped her from the program. "I don't want to go to enrichment," Jessica groaned. "I must go to enrichment," Christopher said. "I must feed my brain. I am gifted." "You've got a gifted belly," Tim said, nodding. "Shush," Karen said. She looked at Jessica. I really don't feel like going either." "But we have to," Jessica said. "Mr. Doblin will come after us if we don't." "We're getting all the enrichment you can ask for right here," Karen said. "Let's skip it today." "Skip it?" Christopher asked. "How you going to manage that?" "Just watch," Karen said, going to the phone behind Mr. Fabiano's desk. She picked it up and dialed a number. "Order a pizza while you're at it," Tim suggested. "Mr. Doblin," Karen asked. "Hi, this is Karen Ballard in Mr. Fabiano's class. We were wondering if we could maybe miss enrichment today." "Yes, sir. We're doing a project here in Mr. Fabiano's class. Sort of like an independent study." Vicky giggled at that one. "No, sir. Mr. Fabiano is absent today," Karen said again. Pause. "Yes, sir." Another pause. Karen smiled. "Okay, I'll tell them. Thanks, Mr. Doblin." She hung up the phone. "Oh, that was a close call," she said, grinning. "For a second, I thought he wanted to talk to our sub. Anyway, it's all set. We're staying right here." "Amen," said Jasmine. "What about me?" Sean asked. I've got to go to resource room. I'm already late." Everyone turned to look at him. "Does Mrs. Zametti really help you?" Robert asked. "I went to her last year. I think she's an alien. Seriously, she's nice, but she's from another galaxy." "Fact," Christopher said. He looked at Sean. "You really have to go?" Sean shrugged and lowered his eyes. It was no secret that he was a poor reader. "My dad showed me this trick," Robert told Sean, "for remembering stuff after you read it. I can show you. It's pretty easy." "So it's decided then," Karen said. "You're staying. We need you right here." "But what?" Karen said. "Don't worry," Karen said, getting out of her seat. "I'll arrange everything." Karen picked up the phone again. "No answer," she said, frowning. Just then the door opened and Mrs. Zametti herself walked into the room. Rachel sat up with a start. "Come on, Sean," Mrs. Zametti urged from the doorway. She was the grandmotherly sort of teacher, short and plump with a pair of thick bifocals around her neck. "But I gotta do some stuff here," Sean said. He looked confused. "I'll have you back here in 30 minutes, maybe less," Mrs. Zametti said with a kind smile. "You hardly know you were gone." Reluctantly, Sean stood. Rachel saw him hesitate by the rain-drenched window, torn between going and trying to stay. She felt sorry for him, but there was nothing she or anyone else could do to help him. "You are to be commended," Mrs. Zametti said, smiling at the kids in the classroom. "I can't tell you how nice it is to see a class behaving itself. You can tell that to Mr. Fabiano." "He's out today," Karen explained as Sean walked to the front of the room. She smiled. We have a substitute, but she ran to the restroom. Well, please tell her I said your wonderful class, Mrs. Zametti said. Mrs. Zametti and Sean left. For 2 full seconds, the class stayed silent as if holding its collective breath. Then everyone cracked up. Shh, Jasmine said, but she was laughing too, bent over. She opened her eyes wide and, still laughing, pointed at Rachel White. The whole class looked and saw what Jasmine had seen, a small smile on Rachel's face. When we meet again, we will be going into their deer time. If you remember that, it says drop everything and read. So this was our part 7 of Flying Solo.